What's up, Valorant fans? Welcome back to the Valorant Report here on Checkmate Gaming. I'm iHoldShift with you to break down all of the changes that are coming with our first patch notes here for Valorant. This is patch note 0.47. It's happening in the middle of a closed beta period, and it's just so encouraging because now we know that Riot, they're reading Reddit, they're listening to us, they know how broken characters like Raze have been, and especially just considering the fact that, you know, at the beginning of the game, the dev diaries were saying that they would not insert a character that had lethal damage necessarily in their ability kit. Well, Raze has all of their abilities that deal significant amount of damage. So let's take a look to see what the patch notes will look like and what our thoughts will be on each of these things and how it might address some of the problems and how it might sway how some of the characters are looked at as we dig closer and further in to our closed beta. Let's start things off with the gameplay balance first and foremost. Melee damage. How many times have we been caught in pistol rounds or by yourself in a 1v2 situation, not having a great weapon, not an AR or something like that, and you're getting stuck by a barrier orb that you have to break through if you want to try to find a way to get a defusal of a spike? If it's me, it feels like it happens more often than not. So to try to address that, they're going to allow melee attacks to inflict double the damage per hit to destructible items in the game. This includes obviously and mostly the barrier orb that's placed by Sage, but if you so choose to, you can break through the Haven doors by Short C by using your melee a lot faster. So again, doubling it means you will take down walls twice as fast. I could not tell you how many hits it takes right now to break part of a barrier orb when it's just recently placed, but I know it's a lot. So even if it goes from 8 to 4, very doable to get back through those barrier orbs, and it makes the oppression of Sage in a post-plant setup most specifically not nearly as difficult to deal with. So it's pretty nice to have that going through. We still have no idea as far as will melee kills start to reward you with a bonus and credits. So far, it currently doesn't. So nothing new there. Just the damage done to destructibles is the first change that we're going to see. Going into a map update, just a small little thing here. There were several exploits that were fixed on Bind, Haven, and Split. It doesn't say exactly what they were. Of course, they probably don't want people trying to break their games, so they're going to conceal that, I'm sure, as much as humanly possible. But the more definitive thing was the fact that Split will actually see movement of the ultimate orb going from the middle of the map over towards that B side garage. Now, if you've been following along competitively on a map like Split, typically what happens over towards B is one Cypher will set up all their traps, the other Cypher will try to scout with their spy cam, and really nobody else will go through B long. It's very dangerous to go through that area simply due to the fact that as you exit, you've got 3 different corners to look at and high ground that's not in your favor whatsoever. So now there's going to be an incentive to at least move your way over to garage, not just offensively, but on the defender's point of view. Now you've got something to try to defend up against to make sure you're not just giving away free orbs every single round. Beyond that, it has been a little bit chaotic in the middle of that map. Again, like I mentioned, usually it's 2 Cyphers kind of dancing with each other in the B garage. Everything else usually sits mid-map for about 30-40 seconds of the first bit of the round. So that will change things up a little bit. I imagine the heat map will look vastly different now that we start to go into that orb being moved. It'll be interesting to see how that all goes. Beyond that, a couple of quality of life fixes, nothing super major, but we also are getting Cypher Spycam officially can no longer be a competitive part of the map. It will be denied the ability to pick up secondary weapons. Again, if you have not seen the Spycam exploit, it was pretty comical, but that will be fixed. Obviously, something that was not intended whatsoever. But going forward, here's the big changes. Character balance stuff already coming through for 2 of the strongest characters in the game. Number 1, OP, it's Raze. The paint shells is providing way too much damage oppression, and with that, the paint shells will not only see a reduction in their charges from 2 to 1, but paint shells now have a kill reset built into its ability. So what that means, it's going to feel a lot like Tailwind or Hot Hands by just my speculation. Again, as I'm recording this video, the patch is not live yet, but essentially what that means is that you're going to have to find 2 kills in the round to generate that charge back. Now, what this does not say is if you get a free charge at the beginning of every round, like A, you were before when it was 2 charges instead of 1, or B, like Tailwind or Hot Hands currently exist. So if we still get that first paint shells for free at the beginning of the round, you still wonder if this balance change is going to be enough. Paint shells as a whole does lethal damage if you're caught in the majority of the explosion radius, and beyond that, you're usually combining it with a slow orb or a cyber cage or something that blocks line of sight to where your opponent cannot respond to it. And with that, you're usually finding 1, if not the potential to follow up on 2 kills if your damage is good and your efficiency is good. So If this is a free charge every round, not only are you no longer spending credits, but you're able to still get at least one good paint shells out each and every round. The explosion radius has not been dealt with. The damage has not been dealt with or changed. This is just how many charges you bring to the battlefield and how you earn maybe a mid-round paint shell. So I don't know if this is enough for me personally. I will say that they are fixing some of the secondary detonation things where there was sometimes a little bit, I won't say an exploit, but a little bit of wonkiness where you could get the secondary set of explosions at a speed where it was too fast for you to respond to. Now, again, there are moments where if you've played around with Raze a lot, you know that if you toss your paint shells up high, it'll kind of explode in the air, and sometimes the secondary explosions will kind of linger for what feels like forever. That does not say that there's going to be a maximum duration. It only establishes that there will be a minimum duration. So the secondary explosion cannot happen until X amount of time has passed. It does not necessarily say how much time that is, but at least will give players hopefully a chance to respond to this more. Beyond that, for Raze as a whole, there's going to be an audio adjustment and tuning going on for her paint shells, her blast pack, and her showstopper. So that way it's a little bit more telegraphed in the middle of chaotic fights. This is a good adjustment. I will say that, again, the more awareness you have in the game, if you're highly competitive or if you're paying attention, it hasn't been too difficult to decipher, but this will make it a little bit more clear that Raze will be figured out when those abilities are coming through and when you need to be very careful about how you're moving into certain choke points to avoid any blast pack damage, which again does some significant damage, the paint shells as a whole, or of course specifically the very balanced showstopper. But again, no changes to damage across anything. No changes to explosion radius, to anything. It is just the simple amount of charges. And I will say that when it comes to tuning a character, I would prefer to see little tweaks that might not be enough more than drastic tweaks, which has completely eliminated the use of a character. I know that Raze is very strong. I know that the opinions on her are get her out of the game, don't want to deal with her, but this is the best way I think to go about going for balance. So I'm excited to see what Riot's going to be able to provide moving forward for a character like Raze. To finish things up, Sage, the Slow Orb, very good, very detrimental to a team that is caught in it, but there are different ways to battle up against that, and now the decision-making becomes a little bit more interesting as the Slow Orb will slow the airspeed of players caught in the affected area, which means that you can no longer just bunny hop in and bunny hop out as freely, but if you are stuck in that slowing orb while it kind of expands around you, you can shift walk and no longer make any noise on it. So you'll be moving at a crawl, but you'll be able to traverse it silently. So I guess the biggest question is, do you take the risk of trying to still go for a bunny hop where likely you will still be at least in some way affected by being involved with that slowing area, or do you just kind of suck it up, hold shift, which I again personally like, and just walk very slowly and silently through that slowing orb? Regardless, Sage still stays very strong in my book. The Slowing Orb is one of the best abilities in the game. It takes away a push. It allows combination for other abilities where a lot of damage can be confirmed. This is an insane character for many reasons. Yeah, the Resurrection provides you a 6v5, but the heal is free and on a cooldown, and now the Slowing Orb will be extra slowing, and it will punish players for trying to essentially bunny hop through that affected area. So there is a slight benefit for still trying to go for it. That's what the patch notes here say from the dev notes in specific, but Sage will still have the ability to try to combine with either other characters with their abilities, or beyond that, still follow up on their own Slowing Orb, because players will be forced to move very, very slowly. Not a lot else to be talking about early. Again, it is just closed beta, but it looks like a lot of our more drastic concerns about the game have been addressed. So you got to give some kudos out to Riot Games for getting out so soon. Again, if this is your first time here at the Checkmate Gaming channel and me with Valorant Report, I hope you enjoyed the content. We'll be doing a more in-depth showcase of all of the characters post this patch. What are the pros? What are the cons? Specifically guided towards the competitive-minded player as we get closer and closer to ranked release. That was teased a couple of weeks ago, that it was only a couple of weeks out. So we got to be getting pretty darn close to it. I hope you'll join me for that video as we move forward. So if you're here, go ahead and like the video if you liked the video. And on your way out, please consider hitting that subscribe button to get notifications on when we post videos live. Till the next one though, hope you keep holding it down. So long.